It started like any other quiet evening in our house, nothing dramatic, nothing unusual. The kind of night that just blends into the next if you're not paying attention. The kids were still at the dinner table, half-finished plates in front of them, more interested in laughing at whatever was playing on the TV than actually eating. I was stretched out on the living room couch, scrolling through my phone, only half listening to the cartoon chatter coming from the screen. Amber was upstairs in the bathroom, straightening her hair for no apparent reason. That in itself had started to feel like a pattern. Lately, she'd been spending more and more time getting ready for, well, nothing. No dinners, no nights out. Just her in the bathroom with her curling iron, a full face of makeup, spritzes of perfume floating down the hall like little ghosts. It wasn't even Friday. Just a random Thursday evening with nowhere to be. That's when her tablet lit up on the coffee table. Normally, she kept it on her nightstand upstairs, but the kids had been using it earlier for games and it must have gotten left behind. The screen buzzed with a video call notification. A FaceTime request, specifically. And what caught my attention wasn't the sound, it was the name. Just a single letter, A. That's it. No last name. No emoji. No context. Just A. I stared at the screen for a second, confused. I wasn't the type to go snooping through her stuff, never had been. We trusted each other. Or at least I thought we did. But something about that call, it didn't sit right. Maybe it was instinct, maybe it was the way her phone had been locked every time I saw it lately, always on silent, always face down. Or maybe it was the simple, sinking feeling that had been building in me for months, even if I'd never admitted it out loud. So I answered it. The second the screen connected, I saw him. A man, probably mid-30s, dark hair, a little scruff on his jaw, completely shirtless, propped up in what was clearly a hotel bed. Not our bed. Not his bedroom at home. A hotel. He had that half-lazy, half-smug look guys wear when they think they're about to see something or someone. But when he saw me instead, when our eyes locked through that screen, his expression snapped from relaxed to frozen. He blinked. I blinked. And then he ended the call. Just like that. No words. No explanation. Just a flat screen in silence. I didn't move. Just sat there staring at the tablet in my hands, my mind racing. The kids were still laughing in the background, completely oblivious. My chest felt tight, like my ribs were slowly trying to cave in. I wasn't even angry, not yet. I was just stunned. Like someone had pulled the floor out from under me and I hadn't hit the ground yet. Seconds later, I heard the quick patter of footsteps on the stairs. Amber came into the room fast, almost slipping as she turned the corner. She must have heard the sound, or maybe she had the kind of sixth sense people have when they know they're about to get caught. Her eyes darted to the tablet in my hands. She didn't say anything at first. Just walked over and took it from me, gently but firmly. She stared at the screen even though the call had already ended. Then she looked at me. It was just a prank, she said, like she'd rehearsed it. Probably a spam call. You know how random numbers show up sometimes. Her voice was calm, but her hands were trembling just enough for me to notice. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, tried to smile, but her face was pale and tight. I didn't say a word. I didn't accuse her or question her. I just nodded once, slow and deliberate, and sat back against the couch cushions like I believed her. But I didn't. She kept standing there for a moment, like she wasn't sure if she should stay or leave. Then she turned and walked back upstairs, her footsteps quieter this time. I heard the bathroom door close behind her. That's when I really started to think. My mind began sifting through the past few months, moments that had seemed harmless before but suddenly didn't feel so innocent anymore. Her weekend trips with the girls. The new clothes, the gym visits, the late-night texts she always brushed off as work messages. The way she had changed the password on her phone for security reasons and how she never left her devices unattended anymore. I had chalked it up to stress. To boredom. To whatever excuse made it easier to sleep at night. But now, sitting there in the dull glow of the living room with cartoons buzzing in the background, I felt something shift. Something real. A crack in the foundation. And maybe it sounds ridiculous getting all this from a single video call, but when you've been married long enough, you learn to read between the lines. You can feel it in your bones when something's off. When your partner starts living a life just a few inches away from yours, but in a completely different world. The rest of the evening went on like nothing had happened. She came downstairs, kissed the kids goodnight, and sat on the couch beside me like we were still us. I watched her out of the corner of my eye. She scrolled through her phone like always, occasionally chuckling at something and showing it to me, pretending nothing was wrong. But I noticed she held the tablet tighter than usual. And when I leaned too close, she tilted the screen away. I didn't call her out. I didn't make a scene. I just nodded, smiled, and played along. But I filed everything away, the video call, her explanation, the way her fingers fidgeted when she thought I wasn't looking. Because the truth is, something had already broken. Quietly. Silently. Like a hairline fracture in glass that spreads without warning. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That night, I laid in bed beside her, listening to the sound of her breathing and wondering what else I had missed. What else she hadn't told me. And if maybe, just maybe, this was only the beginning. After that night with the tablet and the video call, things didn't explode. There wasn't a confrontation, no shouting match or midnight bags packed. But something had changed, quietly and definitively. Like the lights in a house dimming without anyone flipping a switch. Amber went back to her usual rhythm the next morning, school drop-offs, gym, a smoothie post-workout. She texted me updates like always. But it all felt off. Too normal. Too controlled. Like she was performing wife instead of just being her. And me? I started watching. Not in a creepy way. Just paying attention. Listening harder. Filing things away. The first thing I noticed was her phone. It used to sit on the kitchen counter, buzzing with group chats or Instagram alerts. Now it was always with her. Always. Even when she showered. Even when she went to grab the mail. Always silent, always face down. She even started charging it in the bathroom at night instead of on the nightstand we shared for years. Then came the weekend trips. Amber had always loved those little escapes, girls-only getaways she used to plan months in advance with her college friends. I never minded. In fact, I encouraged them. I figured a break from mom life was good for her. But now they were happening more often. And with less detail. She just casually mentioned them. Oh, by the way, heading to the lake this weekend with Jenna and Lauren. You'll be okay with the kids? She always asked it like I was being updated, not included. No discussion, just a decision already made. The first few times I didn't think much of it. But then I tried something. I reached out to Jenna just to say hi. We weren't close, but we chatted at barbecues, school events. She picked up the phone cheerfully until I mentioned the lake trip. What trip? She asked. I paused. The one you and Amber did last weekend. Silence. Then, oh, right? That? Yeah, I didn't end up going. I asked if Lauren had made it, trying to play it cool. Jenna hesitated again. I don't think so. I haven't really talked to her in a few weeks. I got off the call as quickly as I could. My stomach churned. That whole weekend, Amber had sent pictures of wine glasses, lake views, a fireplace. But no people. No group selfies. Nothing with anyone else in the frame. It was a weird detail, but once I noticed it, I couldn't stop seeing it. Then came the passwords. Amber and I had always shared access to everything, not because we didn't trust each other, but because we didn't need to hide anything. Bank accounts, calendars, even her Hulu profile. But suddenly I was locked out. Her laptop had a new password. Her phone required Face ID, and if I asked to borrow it, she'd hover awkwardly while I used it, pretending to be relaxed but clearly anxious. She told me it was work-related. My company's making us lock everything down. Security protocols, you know? I nodded. I wanted to believe her. But I didn't. Her wardrobe shifted too. Not dramatically, but noticeably. She started wearing dresses I hadn't seen before. Bolder colors, tighter fits. She'd come back from the gym wearing makeup. Who wears foundation to a workout? One afternoon, while getting the laundry from her purse, yes, she dumps receipts and napkins and socks in there, I found a bar tab from a lounge one town over. It was dated for a Friday night she claimed she'd spent watching movies at her friend's place. The receipt was for 2 drinks and a dessert. No names. No proof. But the pieces were starting to stack up. Then there was the gym. Amber told me she'd been going more often lately. Said it helped her clear her head, reset mentally. But the gym was 5 minutes away. She'd leave for an hour and be gone too. She'd come back glowing, not just from the workout, but like she'd stepped out of a spa. Lip gloss intact. Hair barely mussed. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe she was just trying to feel better. Maybe this was some mid-30s rediscovery thing. But deep down I knew. People don't change their habits this suddenly unless there's a reason. A new energy in their life. Or someone. I didn't accuse her. I couldn't. Not yet. Because here's the thing, you don't want to believe the person you've built your life with is lying to your face. You don't want to be the suspicious husband. The one going through receipts and watching GPS history. That's not who I was. At least, not before. But now? I was starting to feel like a stranger in my own house. Even the way she touched me changed. Or didn't. The casual hand on the shoulder, the forehead kiss, the way she used to sit close when we watched TV, gone. Replaced by polite smiles, vague answers, and cold sheets between us. She wasn't angry. She wasn't picking fights. She was just gone. Emotionally checked out, like she'd already left and I was just watching the ghost of our marriage play out in real time. I told myself maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe work was stressing her out. Maybe the kids, the routine, the years were weighing on her. But that little voice in the back of my mind? It was getting louder and harder to ignore. One night, while she was in the shower, I checked the tablet again. The same one from the video call. It wasn't password protected. She probably assumed I'd never look again. There were no call logs. No saved messages. No app history. Nothing. Like it had all been wiped clean. And that scared me more than anything else. Because if she wasn't hiding something, why erase the evidence? Why erase everything? It was the third weekend in a row Amber had another business trip. This time to the city, supposedly for a regional conference with her firm. She left on Friday morning, suitcase packed, laptop bag slung over her shoulder, giving me a kiss on the cheek like everything was fine. She even left a handwritten note in the kitchen for the kids, something about pizza night and being back by Sunday afternoon. Like she was the perfect mom. Like she wasn't lying to all of us. I watched her pull out of the driveway from the front window. The car turned right at the corner, same route as always. But this time I wasn't going to just sit at home, reheating leftovers and pretending everything was okay. Months ago, back when Amber first started going on those solo drives and late-night grocery runs, I had installed a GPS tracker in her car. It was supposed to be for safety, something I told myself was reasonable as a husband and a father. I even joked about it once. Don't worry, if you get carjacked, I'll know exactly where to find you. She laughed. Back then, it was just a precaution. Now, it was something else entirely. As soon as she turned out of sight, I opened the tracking app on my phone. Her blue dot moved along the freeway like expected, heading toward downtown. But 20 minutes in, she exited earlier than she should have. Not the business district. Not the hotel she'd mentioned in her email confirmation. She was heading east, out of the city and into quieter territory. Suburban roads. Then further, into a wooded, more rural area. My heart started pounding. Not from shock. From confirmation. She ended up at a small lakeside town just over an hour away. The kind of place with antique shops, cabin rentals, and family-run cafes. It wasn't on any business itinerary. There were no conference centers, no office parks. Just trees, water, and quiet. A getaway spot. I waited a few hours. I told the kids we'd go to the arcade after lunch and called my sister to babysit for a few hours. I made up a story about needing to meet an old friend who was in town for the weekend. She didn't ask questions. By late afternoon, I was on the road. I didn't rush. I didn't want to be reckless. I needed to be deliberate. Focused. I didn't know what I'd find, but I knew I couldn't go another day wondering. The GPS showed her car parked near the edge of town, down a private road that led to a group of rental cabins. I parked a quarter-mile away and walked the rest, my boots crunching softly over gravel and pine needles. The air was cold but clean, and every step I took felt heavier than the last. I stayed off the main path, slipping between trees until I found the right cabin. There it was. Amber's car out front. A rental SUV parked next to it. 2 wine glasses on the deck railing. Soft music playing through an open window. And then I saw them. Amber walked out onto the porch wearing a white robe, the same one she'd packed in her suitcase, saying she might use the hotel spa. She was laughing, holding a drink. Her hair was tied up. She looked relaxed. Happy. Like the woman I hadn't seen in months. Then he followed. The man from the video call. Shirtless this time, wearing nothing but shorts and holding a second glass. He stepped behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist, kissed her neck. She leaned back into him like it was the most natural thing in the world. I felt my breath catch. I stood there, hidden in the brush, not moving, just watching them sip wine and laugh like teenagers, like they hadn't just spent months tearing my world apart behind my back. I didn't scream. I didn't confront them. I didn't even cry. I just took out my phone, raised it slowly, and started taking pictures. Photo after photo. Amber smiling. Him touching her. The two of them clinking glasses on the porch. The cabin in the background. Her car. His SUV. The timestamp on every sh*T. Burned in automatically by the app one used. Proof. Unarguable. Undeniable. It was surreal. Like watching a movie you didn't audition for, but somehow ended up starring in anyway, just not as the lead. I was the background character now. The one left out of the plot twist. I stayed for a few minutes longer. They disappeared inside. and I heard the door click shut. Curtains were already drawn. I didn't want to know what was happening next. I didn't need to. I turned and walked back to my car, the cold air stinging my face. I didn't look back. I didn't second guess it. I just got in, started the engine, and drove. Back home, I acted like nothing happened. Amber returned on Sunday, like she said she would. She walked in through the front door with a gift bag from some boutique store, handed me a pair of novelty socks. "I thought these looked like you," she said, laughing, and kissed me on the cheek like we were still playing house. She didn't mention the cabin, didn't say a word about the man, just put her suitcase down and started talking about dinner. I nodded, smiled even, but something inside me had gone quiet. I'd always thought the worst moment in a marriage would be the confrontation, the yelling, the betrayal exposed under a spotlight. But I was learning that the real pain came in silence, in pretending, in watching someone walk through your door, set her keys down, and kiss you with the same lips that whispered secrets into someone else's ear just hours earlier. I didn't tell her what I knew. I didn't throw the photos in her face. Not yet, because this wasn't just about catching her. It was about preparing myself. She had her secrets. Now I had mine. And for the first time since this all began, I had something she didn't expect. Control. After the cabin, after the photos, after seeing everything with my own eyes, I didn't blow up. I didn't scream. I didn't even tell anyone, not yet. I went silent but not passive. Amber came home on Sunday, humming some tune as she walked in through the door, acting like she had just returned from a team-building seminar. Her hair was tied back loosely, makeup still faintly on, and a soft vanilla scent trailing behind her. She handed me a souvenir mug and a bag of locally roasted coffee, like that would somehow ground her lie into something believable. I took it with a smile, said thanks, asked if the meetings went well. She said, "Busy, but productive." I nodded, sipping the coffee she brought like it didn't taste like betrayal. And that's how the next chapter of my life started. Not with a bang, but with a quiet, calculated withdrawal. I didn't tell Amber I knew. I let her think the play was still running, the script still working. And every day she played her part, packing lunches, leaving for spin class, calling me babe on autopilot. I pulled back another piece of myself. The detachment didn't happen overnight. It was subtle, purposeful. I didn't change routines. I just changed direction. The first thing I did was meet with my accountant. Said I was looking into diversifying some assets. That's all I told him. But by the end of the meeting, I had moved a chunk of our joint savings into a private trust under my name. Legal, clean, untraceable by her unless she knew exactly where to look. And she wouldn't. I started shifting the business accounts too. I'd built a modest side consulting company a few years back. Nothing flashy, just something I was proud of. Amber had no part in it. But on paper, her name had floated in some of the documents. Nothing binding, just shared beneficiary stuff. At the time, it made sense. Now, it didn't. I had it all transferred. Quietly, legally. Every share, every stake moved to a trust managed by my brother and our attorney. I removed her name from every account, every vendor file, every billing document. If she ever came looking, she'd find a paper trail that ended with me and didn't include her. At night, we sat across from each other on the couch, pretending to watch TV. She'd scroll through her phone. I'd pretend to care about whatever show was playing. But the silence between us had texture now, thick and heavy, like we both felt it but neither of us dared name it. Sometimes I'd catch her looking at me, almost nervously, like she knew I had changed but couldn't figure out why. She stopped trying to touch me. The hugs disappeared. The kisses grew mechanical. She laughed a little less. Or maybe I just stopped noticing when she did. One evening, she came home from one of her gym trips, hair perfect, lips glossed, and said the gym's doing an overnight retreat next month. Just one night. Some hiking, yoga, that sort of thing. I just nodded. Sounds fun. She waited a beat. Is that okay? I smiled. You don't need to ask my permission, Amber. She studied me like she was trying to decide if that was a trap, then nodded and walked away. I went to my office and added it to my calendar. Not because I needed a reminder, but because I already knew that retreat would be another hotel. Another lie. And I was building a record of every one. By this point, I had created a folder. Password protected. Buried behind boring file names. In it were the photos from the cabin, *TS of her texts I had managed to sync through the cloud before she updated her security, receipts she hadn't bothered to hide. Even a short video, just 10 seconds of her walking arm in arm with the man from the tablet, taken from the tree line that day at the lake. I wasn't gathering proof to confront her. I was gathering proof to protect myself. In the mornings, I'd get the kids ready for school like usual. Pack their lunches. Tie their shoes. Remind them to say please and thank you. In the evenings, I'd help them with homework, make dinner, fold laundry. Amber would show up, smile, ask about their day, pretend we were still a team. But I saw the way she flinched sometimes when I walked into her room. The way she paused mid-text and flipped her phone screen down. The way she overcorrected, too cheerful, too casual. She knew something was off. She just couldn't figure out what. And that was the power shift I never expected to feel. For the first time in months, maybe years, I had leverage. Not to hurt her, not to get revenge. Just to level the playing field. To finally stop feeling like I was the one being lied to, manipulated, twisted around. I wasn't playing defense anymore. The day I removed her name from our living will, I didn't even feel guilty. I sat in my lawyer's office, signed a few forms, and that was it. The line that had once bound our futures together had been cut, quietly and legally. She was still in the house, still sleeping on the same side of the bed, still walking around in slippers I bought her last Christmas. But in every way that mattered, she was no longer part of my life. At night, when she slept, I sometimes stayed awake, staring at the ceiling. Not out of grief. Not anymore. But out of clarity. Because I finally saw her for what she was, not a stranger, not a villain. Just someone who stopped choosing me. And now I was returning the favor. One evening, as she loaded the dishwasher, she looked over and said, "You've been quiet lately." I shrugged. "Just thinking a lot." She paused. "About what?" I looked at her, not with anger, not with love. Just calm. "Everything," I said. She didn't ask more. Maybe she didn't want to know. I went to bed that night knowing I was almost ready. Not for a fight. Not even for a breakup. For release. I didn't know his name. Not then. Just a blurry face from a video call, a pair of arms wrapped around my wife at a lakeside cabin, and a smugness in every photo I took that told me he thought he'd gotten away with something. But I wasn't interested in revenge. Not yet. I was interested in truth. And closure. The kind that cuts clean, not deep. After weeks of playing it cool, my next move came from a quiet moment of strategy. It started with a photo. I had taken one of Amber and him at the cabin, her laughing, holding a glass of wine, his arm around her shoulder. It wasn't explicit. Just close enough, just an asterisk made enough to make its meaning unmistakable. I uploaded it to an anonymous email address. No name, no traceable IP. I did my homework. And with that photo, I sent a short message. "I think your husband has been spending time with my wife. Cabin by Lake Ravine, last Saturday. If this means anything to you, write back." I didn't expect a response immediately. I wasn't even sure I'd find the right person. But the next morning, the reply was sitting in my inbox like it had been waiting for me. "This confirms what I've been suspecting. Who are you? Let's talk." Her name was Melissa. And she was the man's wife. We agreed to meet in a neutral place, a park outside the city, public and quiet. I got there early, sat on a bench facing the lake. When she arrived, I recognized her instantly. Not because I'd seen her before, but because she looked like me, tired eyes, guarded expression, like someone who'd been living next to a ticking clock for months. She sat down slowly, holding a manila folder in her lap. She didn't waste time. "I thought it was just stress," she said, staring out over the water. "He started traveling more. Coming home late. Dressing differently. Then I found a credit card charge at a spa we've never been to. A receipt for 2, not 1. I asked about it, and he said he'd treated a client. He was so calm, so convincing. But I knew. I nodded. That's how it starts. Quietly." She opened the folder and handed me a printed screen *T. Text messages between her husband and someone saved as read. My stomach tightened. The tone was unmistakably flirty. Nicknames. Plans. "Can't wait to see you. Last weekend was perfect." One message said, "Next time, bring that robe. You looked incredible in it." Melissa and I stared at the same evidence, realizing we had been living parallel lives, orbiting a truth just out of reach. "I guess now we know," I said, swallowing hard. She looked at me, eyes firm. "Now what?" That was the question. What do you do when two people build their lives on deception? and those lives intersect at your expense. We made a plan, not to humiliate, not to expose in anger, but to document, because truth without proof was a scream in an empty room. But truth with evidence? That could speak volumes. We started a shared folder, cloud-based, password-protected, encrypted. Inside it, we dropped everything. Photos, *TS, timestamps. Messages from Amber's tablet. Charges from his card. Video stills from a cabin rental listing with identical outdoor furniture. GPS logs showing Amber's car in places she had no business being. We cross-referenced hotel bookings, compared phone records, matched dates and excuses. The overlap was undeniable. They weren't occasional. This wasn't a single mistake. It was a routine. They had rituals. One weekend per month. Always business trips or training sessions. Locations rotated, sometimes a cabin, sometimes a boutique hotel, but always in towns where neither of them had real work to do. One message in Melissa's folder read, "I wish we could just stop pretending." That one hit me hardest. They weren't even afraid anymore, just tired of lying. Melissa and I met a few more times, always in public, always brief. We didn't talk about feelings. We talked logistics, evidence, options, whether we wanted legal action or just closure. First, she wanted to confront him immediately, but I urged patience. Let them believe they're still winning, I said. Let them keep lying, because when this ends, I want it to end completely. No backpedaling, no excuses, just truth on record. She agreed. One night, she emailed me a voice recording. Her husband talking to someone, presumably Amber, on speakerphone while he thought Melissa was asleep. They were planning another trip. She says she'll get the time off, he said. I already booked the suite. Same one as last time. God, I missed that. Melissa's message below the audio clip was simple. We're almost there. And we were. It didn't make things easier. Knowing hurt. Every normal day felt staged. Amber kept up appearances, date nights, family dinners, even trying to initiate in *Macy a few times, like her guilt was trying to manifest some version of love. I let her. Not out of cruelty, but out of calculation. Because the moment I stepped back in anger, she'd know. She'd retreat, protect herself. And I wasn't done collecting what I needed. Melissa, meanwhile, started preparing her own legal path. Quietly moved funds. Consulted her lawyer. Created a backup email for updates. We never exchanged phone numbers. We never met at either of our homes. We kept our alliance as clean and hidden as theirs had been messy and desperate. And through it all, we never pretended we were allies in healing. We were just people hurt by the same fire, comparing burns. One night, Melissa messaged me, "I'm not even mad at him anymore. I just feel hollow." I knew exactly what she meant. The anger burned out eventually. All that's left is the quiet, the space where love used to live. Eventually, we agreed on one thing. It had to end not just personally but publicly. Not to shame them, but to stop them. To make sure they couldn't twist the story in their favor later. Couldn't paint us as the bitter ones. Couldn't rewrite the narrative once the truth was out. So we timed it. We chose the event carefully. Amber was being honored at a charity gala, community service recognition. Ironically, there'd be press, colleagues, a slideshow planned. Melissa would be there too. And when the time came, we wouldn't yell. We'd just show the truth. The night of the gala arrived like a final act I never auditioned for. Amber looked radiant, dressed in a navy blue gown, hair curled, smile polished. She asked me to button her necklace. I did, hand steady, heart quiet. "You look amazing," I said. And she did. Stunning, even. But it was the kind of beauty you can admire from a distance, no longer mine, no longer familiar. She was receiving a community service award. The event was hosted at a ballroom downtown, filled with city officials, nonprofit directors, families. She glided through the crowd like nothing was wrong, laughing, shaking hands, kissing cheeks. The perfect image of grace. Melissa and I didn't speak that night, but she was there, alone, watching. At 7:42 p.m., the lights dimmed for the presentation. Amber stood backstage, waiting to be introduced. Her name appeared on the large screen. A slideshow began, pictures of her volunteering, organizing school drives, leading food bank projects. Then came the shift. The screen glitched just for a second. Then a new title appeared. The True Life of a Volunteer. The room stilled. Slide by slide, images began to show. Amber at the lakeside cabin. Her with him. Their route maps. Hotel bookings with both of their names. A screenshot asterisk T of her text. I wish we could stop pretending. The gasps were soft at first, then louder. A few people turned to look at me. Others looked toward the stage, where Amber now stood, frozen in place. Her face drained of color. No one shouted. No one clapped. Just silence. Then, without saying a word, I walked up to her. I handed her an envelope. Inside, I whispered, "Is everything you never told me?" She opened it as the screen faded to black. The applause that followed wasn't for her. A week later, I filed for divorce. No speeches, no drawn-out battles. I told her she could have the house, the car, even the savings. I didn't care about the things. I only wanted peace. She tried to talk, tried to cry, tried to twist it into something that could still be saved. But it was too late. The truth had already lived outside of us for too long. I changed my phone number, closed my social media, transferred my consulting work to a different state, rented a small apartment near the mountains, quiet and uncluttered. I took only what I needed. The kids stayed with me during the transition. They didn't know the details, and I didn't burden them with any. Just told them sometimes people make mistakes, and sometimes grown-ups stop being a team. Amber stayed in the house, alone. The glow around her, once so carefully curated, was gone now. Her social pages went dark. The local news didn't pick up the story, but the community buzzed. Whispers were enough. Melissa messaged me one last time. "Thank you for the truth." I didn't reply, because some chapters don't need sequels. I walked away, not angry, not broken, just free. And for the first time in months, I could breathe again. Not to forget what happened, but to remember who I was before all of it. Before her lies. Before the quiet unraveling. Before I had to rebuild. This time I'd do it right. This time I'd start with me.